Hello, I'm Kads, and welcome back to the free-to-play review. So it is once again time to talk about the latest iteration of the summon pool, but in this case we have a couple of new features being added to the system, so let's see what we think of those. So first off, you might notice that there is a change to the format here, and it's the same rates as usual, 6% for a legendary, 94% chance for an epic, but with the new layout, it highlights one of the new features, that being the headline champion, which typically will be the faction unity champions, at least from here on out, but perhaps it'll also be some special champion, or maybe the most desirable champion in any given summon pool. So like we said, there's a 94% chance that you're going to get one of the epics from the Skinwalkers faction, 4% chance of getting any one of these legendaries from the Skinwalkers, and then a 2% chance of getting this particular champion. So for anyone who fully doesn't understand exactly how the math breaks down on this, there is still an overall 6% chance to get a legendary, but there's a 4% chance that you'll get any one of these. So if you really wanted to get one specific one of these legendaries, then it would be 4% divided by 6 in this case, and then there's still a 2% chance to get the headline champion. So you're more likely to get the headline champion if you get a legendary at all, if you're looking at it from the position of one particular legendary, but overall you could argue that you're more likely to get any legendaries from this particular grouping just because the overall chance is higher. And from here on out, I'm fairly sure that the headline champion can only be acquired once per summon pool event, so all of you folks who got your triple, quadruple, whatever Teox's last time around, that probably won't happen as easily in the future going forward. So as is within the normal boundaries, this one costs 35 fragments to summon, and unfortunately the only source in this case is the Sand Devil tournament, which is probably more catered to those more in the end game, but nonetheless, you know, if you have enough excess energy, you could most certainly participate in that tournament in order to get yourself a free summon. So first off, you might be wondering, is the headline champion even worth going for, worth doing a Sand Devil tournament for? Obviously the answer is typically it's up to you as the individual to decide if that's worth it for yourself, but nonetheless, let's talk about his kit and see if he's worth it in my opinion. So on the A1 here, attacks one enemy 2 times. After the second hit, heals all allies by 5% of this champion's max HP. He is an HP based champion, and we can't see the full stats here, but nonetheless, you can expect that he's going to be fairly tanky or have a relatively high HP, meaning that could be a pretty substantial heal. That ability is kind of like Pythion's ability, except that it's healing all allies by 5% and only 1 heal instead of 2 heals on the ally with the lowest HP for Python. Also, it has a 10% chance, 15% when booked, of granting next turn, so he might just get free extra turns and cycle through the rest of his kit. On the A2, it's worded very strangely, but nonetheless, it attacks one enemy, has a 100% chance when booked to placing the big version of decreased defense, and then after attacking the initial target, it attacks all other enemies and also has a 100% chance when booked to placing big version of decreased defense. So effectively an AoE attack that places decreased defense, but it's separated into a single target hit and then an AoE hit on everyone else. I don't know, seems kind of weird, but nonetheless, it's just AoE decreased defense. On the A3, AoE attack that hits all enemies 2 times, and each hit has a 100% chance of placing a stun. Note that you do not need to book up the chance of placing the stun, and it is 2 times. So if you consider the fact that there is a 3% chance to get resisted, that reduces that a lot, because you have 2 chances, 100% chance, or effectively 97% chance to actually land your stun, which is very reliable. When you start to bring in faction allies, you can strip all buffs before attacking, which is kind of like Odin Faefather's ability, minus the AoE decreased defense. With 2 allies, it fills his turn meter by 15% for each stun placed, which can be a lot of turn meter if you place all 4 stuns or all 5 stuns, depending on how many enemies you're facing. And then if there are 3 other allies, then the skill will ignore 50% of the target's resistance, which is substantial. So if you have 1,000 resistance on your Mithrala Lifebane, for example, this will bring her down to 500, meaning you only need around 600 accuracy to actually land the stun, which is pretty substantial if you can pull that off. On the passive, you can think of this as the opposite of the passive for the Iron Twins, where when an ally uses a multi-hit skill, each subsequent hit after the first deals 15% more damage. And because he is a Skinwalker, the one that comes to my mind immediately is Brachus the Shifter, who has a 6-time hitter on one of his abilities. So that skill combined with this passive will deal a significant amount of damage, and I cannot wait to see some sort of showcase featuring the pairing of those 2 champions. That might be fun to see. For the unity aspects of the passive, whenever an ally hits an enemy, there's a 10% chance that they'll also place a stun for 1 turn, which is pretty substantial. 2 allies, and then whenever an ally inflicts a critical hit, it will fill their turn meter by 5%, which again is pretty substantial, and that is per hit, meaning that if you hit multiple enemies with crits, you will get multiple instances of the 5% turn meter fill. And then if you have a full team of Skinwalkers, all allies will ignore 30% of the defense of enemies under stuns. So basically, he's a very strong setup champion to enable your team, or your Skinwalkers, I should say, to deal a substantial amount more damage than they used to, but also cycle through their ability abilities a lot faster than usual. On the aura, speed in arena battles by 24%, and then accuracy in all battles for Skinwalkers by 60. So overall, I'd give him probably an A. Obviously, he's like a polymorph magnet in the current meta, but obviously with the new sets coming into the game, the polymorph meta might shift, and so champions like this might see a little bit more play and or a resurgence for this type of control, debuffing, buff stripping potential abilities. The other new aspect to talk about is the Mercy system, which has been added to the Prism system. I believe initially they said they weren't going to do this, but it turns out they changed their mind. Who knows what their reasoning behind that. So after you summon 20 Prism Shards without getting a legendary, your chances will then increase up by 3% per shard, meaning that, you know, for a legendary starts off at 6%, it'll go up to 9, then 12, then etc., all the way up eventually to 100%, which would take a lot more than 20, so keep that in mind. But nonetheless, it's just kind of a bone that's being thrown to the people that would benefit most from this kind of system, or the system in general, not just the Mercy system, which is whales, of course, spenders. So this system was never and has never been designed with free-to-play players in mind. It is nice that you have the opportunity to earn 1 to 2 free summons here and there, and so that's kind of a bonus. But the entirety of the system, as we all know, it's designed for spenders who are going to dump hundreds of dollars or maybe even more trying to get desirable champions. And I know for a fact that there were many people, numerous people that dropped hundreds of dollars just to get Teox last go around. And so with that in mind, they created this Mercy system to say, hey, you know, if you're super unlucky while you're wailing out, then now it's a lot more likely that you're going to get a legendary in general while you're already spending money, and then you're even more likely to get the headline champion, which is typically the champion that people are pulling for in these types of events. That being said, could it be a lower threshold? Perhaps. Could it be a higher chance increase per shard? Perhaps. But it is what it is, and as free-to-play players, we're never going to get out to 20 summons anyway, so it really doesn't matter what the threshold is or how good or bad the Mercy system is. Again, the system is designed for spenders. So in this particular instance, you could see that I'm not going for it. The Sand Devil Turn Attack tournament actually ends today at the time of this recording, so if I were going for it, I'd probably have to be wrapping that up today. Instead, I'm trying to finish out the champion training tournament to get the Eternal Soul Coins there at the top, on top of the Legendary Tome. But in the comment section below, let me know how you guys feel about the new changes to the Prism Shard system. And also, I'm kind of curious how often you guys actively pursue the free air quotes options for getting summons in these summon pools. As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below and feel free to subscribe to the channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching and have a good one.